Backs out, I'm growing hard in the city, even with no acres. Box gardens, wood pallets, straw bales or containers. Struggle makes resourceful, nobody seems too remorseful. Either way, we gotta eat, that pot too big to eat morsel. Farm to table, we sourcing, black producers and farmers. Hold a vibe when we shopping, Akashic records that calm me. Co-op that suit. Teamwork make the dream work. Light work, no scheme work. Run it back to my feet. Eat footsteps that cold speak. You can code and tell it. Metaphysical add cloth, better heat the smoke when you smell it. Life flame, I'm living. In the field, no bondage. Million shovels at the same time. Breaking ground, pay homage. Gotta correct that spelling. We've been hooked on bad phonics. Even with no soil. H2O hydroponics. You ain't wake up in 20. And 21 gon' spook you. Digitizing that fiat. I'm planting seeds for the few. My fabrics resilient. The elements done shaped us. Production over consumption. Transform black consumers to make us. So shine a light on the fakers. I don't judge my better. Gotta practice discernment. Men that run that game if you let them. Get it back to the garden. Get back on assignment. Got body in flex mode. Like black star in alignment. Ain't never gonna tap out. 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 We keep growing and growing and growing and growing, no blowing no backs out. I say yeah. A million black shovels at the same time. A million black shovels at the same time. A million black shovels at the same time. 4, 3, 2, 1. Game time.
Good morning, B1AG. We're back again. You got John Henry, Farmer Brian MC. We're going to bring y'all some of this daily bread. 1 million shovels, 1 million black shovels at the same time. April 3rd, 2021. 4, 3, 2, 1. That day we'll never see that day again. 4, 3, 2, 1. It's the countdown. 1 million black shovels at the same time. We'd like to see 1 million of us melanated peoples planting something at the same time. You know, it's we're past due. We need to get these shovels in the ground. We need to get these crops growing so we can feed ourselves. All right. Today we have a nice it's a different topic. It's actually kind of surprising. So they're introducing a new bill and they call it the Justice Bill. And this Justice Bill will transfer 32 million acres of land back to black farmers. That's what they're proposing. That's a major transfer of wealth, so to speak. Now, our question is this reparations? Is this what they would like to see as a form of reparations? And also, if they're giving us, back in the days, we asked for 40 acres and a mule, and they wouldn't give it to us. But now they want to give us 32 million acres. And we're going to look at that from all angles, from a B1 perspective, because here at B1AG, we're looking at black agriculture production, education, marketing, nutrition, food, and economics, from a B1 perspective, about our black family and our black community, and especially black food and how we eat. So, Farmer Brown, is this $32 million, 32 million acres of transfer? Is this you think this is real? Do you think they're going to do it? And would this be considered reparation?
First, I'd like to say peace to the family. I hope everything's going well. We're warming up here in Kentucky, and then I think we're going to have some rain coming. Cool. Now, there's multiple ways I can answer that question. I can give you my professional analysis. I can tell you what I think. I don't know anything. I'm still learning. But okay, let's put this in perspective. I haven't read through the whole bill, so I'm hoping we'll have some time today to kind of dig through it. On the surface, this looks great.
on the surface, this looks great. Right now, we know black farmers in the 1920s had 15 million acres of land collectively. That's when they represented 15% of the agricultural population, to where now black primary operators represent 1.4% of farmers and only own 0.04% of the land. Not 1%, but 0.04 of the actual land. And so when we put in perspective North America, and this is just your lower 48 states, not including Alaska or Hawaii, is 1.9 billion acres. 1.9 billion acres. 32 million acres is cool. But I think there's a lot of other details within that I will be interested to see. One in particular that jumps out immediately, continuing our conversation about Bill Gates, Bezos, some of the other large-scale investors who've been buying up the arable farmland in North America in recent months. Is it good arable land? Did that specify? When you're speaking legalese, you have to be very specific. When you're dealing with law, you don't want to leave anything to assumption. You don't want to leave anything to thinking, okay, you gave me that wink. I thought I saw that wink. But then after you've been elected and then I give you nothing, you can't go back to, well, hey, I thought you winked at me. That doesn't stand in the court of law. And so I'd be real curious as we dig through this, if it specifically states arable farmland. Also, there's another article I hope we're going to pull up a little later. So most of the farmland in the Midwest is rendered useless at this moment because of the overuse of pesticides and herbicides. It's been over-farmed. That's one of the downsides of having, industrial farming. When I have these huge tractors, I'm going to do a lot more, or huge implements and equipment, I'm going to do a lot more damage to the land than, say, if you had actual people out doing the work. That's when it becomes labor intensive. That's when it becomes, okay, we're going to need another workforce to work a little cheaper to do this that this big machine will do. So once again, there's these trade-offs where this is one of the reasons we're having these conversations. But to tie back to this situation, so we know a lot of the farmland in the Midwest particularly, which is where Bill Gates bought a lot of the land, is not usable anymore. And so I'm curious to know, is this 32 million, is this prime acreage? Is this acres that, whoever gets this land, they'll be able to go out and just, have phenomenal, successful crops? Or is this land that, okay, I bought it, I got it through whatever this special program. I want to go organic, but I can't grow organic for the next 4 years because the last 10 years it's had pesticides on it. And so these are things we got to keep in mind. It's going to cost you. Once you have an asset like land, you're going to pay your property taxes. If you are wanting to get in production, say if it isn't good land, you're going to have to bring in more inputs to amend your soils. If you try to do minimal till or no till, okay, there's still a lot more money you'd have to spend. And so I'm wondering if some of these areas are covered within this bill as well, or is it just saying, hey, here's 32 million acres. I'm giving y'all back something. And so I'm real curious to see what the verbiage is around that.
$32 million acres is a lot of land, whether it's arable or not. Because I feel like, we as a people, we'll find a way to make that land do what it does. But do you think that we're really prepared as the people, as farmers, to receive and care for 32 million acres? They can drop, because under the new justice bill, it would give black farmers up to 160 acres apiece, right? Now, back in the day, we were only asking for 40 acres and a mule, and they wouldn't give it to us. So just me being slightly skeptical, slightly cynical, if you wouldn't give us 40 acres and a mule, now you want to give us 160 acres per farmer. It just makes me scratch my head a little bit. Do you trust it? I mean, just as a overall, do you trust it?
I think we've had this discussion enough to know in a time of crisis, I doubt any of the other organisms within this ecosystem we live in are waking up in the morning figuring out, in the time of my crisis, now how can I help this other group over there who has a crisis? Let's think about it. there's these concept of filters. You know, we think about trickle down economics. We've lived through the 80s, 90s. We see that trickle down doesn't ever trickle down to the people who are assuming that it's going to trickle down to. So when I think about this land, so to answer your first question, knowledge-wise, skill sets, physical bodies, information available, absolutely, black farmers could take 32 million and flip it into a whole new U.S. economy. Absolutely, the potentiality exists, 100%, no doubt about it. Now, when you deal in farming or agriculture, you don't deal in, I guess, I hope. You have to be very specific. Anything you want to do is going to have a cost. It's going to cost energy to get this from point A to point B. It's going to cost something to put this in the ground to yield something. It's going to cost something to get somebody to come out here and do something with it. It's going to cost something to ship it to where it's going. It's going to cost something for somebody to market it and sell it. And then somebody's got to buy it. And so if you ask me on a grand scale as a community, are we poised to support 32 million acres worth of black land? I seriously doubt it. But I will say this is why we have B1AG. This is why we consistently want to reach out to other brothers and sisters who are already doing this work so we can expand this conversation. So in the situation that this land is granted, because once again, this is still just a conversation. And we've lived long enough to see conversations go on and on and on and no tangibles ever manifest. What my fear would be as a community, if we're not able to coalesce and in rapid speed make this a part of our culture, make supporting black farmers a part of our culture, make at least a significant part of our food intake, 20%. You know, black farmers, realistically speaking, wouldn't be able to feed all the black people in America. I think that's utopian. But I think it's fair enough, even with 32 million, I think it's fair enough to say if we had a formidable community buy-in of the importance of specifically buying black. I mean, you can get this great looking tomato at Whole Foods and Kroger that was grown by somebody else, and you don't want to racialize things. And so my thing is, let's look at the economy of it. And so you give these black farmers 160 acres of land that they're responsible for, whether they're able to make profit for it or not. And so what I wouldn't want to happen is, okay, in year one of me giving y'all all these acres, you're happy, you're excited, you're optimistic. And then you realize the only people available to buy this is the group that ain't happy that you got all of this. Because there are some people that will see this as, hold up, for you to give them 32 million, that means you're taking something from me. And so we've lived long enough to see that there are factions, not everybody, but there are factions within other groups, not just white, that would have a problem with that. And so as a group, we have to ask, do we have the consumer support just in case, okay, these farmers that got all this land don't have bases. They don't have markets to purchase their products. What happens 10 years later if we don't have a community, I ain't going to say a buffer community. It's a safety net. As a black farmer, okay, I done came across this government program. I can get 160 acres of land. I know what to do with it, but I get out here in year one and realize, the soil's bad. And so I got to wait, 2-3 years for this soil to get back right. Okay, in the meantime, I'll do agroforestry, but then you need equipment. Okay, I'll run some silvopasture in the forest. I'll run some goats. But I got to buy some goats. And so is this bill making sure that the farmers are able to actually profit off of the land? Or am I just going to give you an asset where you're going to be bumbling and fumbling around, chasing these phantom opportunities until year 10, you're giving it right back to me. And in year 10, I can say, well, I gave y'all what y'all asked for. Y'all didn't know what to do with it. And so that's why conversations like these, platforms like this, because there's money people that are hearing this conversation that can take much more effective action on what we're discussing. But I think this is definitely something, as we have this discussion about, because this isn't the only bill being introduced. I think Raphael Warnock has introduced some legislation as well, which is for farmers of color. So, hey, there's millions of colors on the spectrum. And so I guess this one, which I will give credit to Cory Booker, at least specifically says black. But with everything that comes from, who we speak of, you have to look at everything with a little bit of scrutiny with a what if. What if you're not going to give us all the inputs and other financing and capital necessary to make this land productive? What if we don't have a community in place that knows that this is something to be defended? What does this look like 10 years later? Does this mean 32 million acres is about to go right back to whoever sold it to us, and they received the benefit of all the property taxes we was paying that whole 10 years, bumbling, fumbling around trying to make something work where we were kind of cut off from the beginning? And so these are real dynamics we have to think about with this bill.
Now, speaking of the bill, and you did mention Cory Booker. This is what Cory Booker had to say. When it comes to farming and agriculture, we know that there is a direct connection between discriminatory practices within the USDA and the enormous land loss we have seen among Black farmers in the past century, said Cory Booker of New Jersey, the lead sponsor of the bill. He said the bill will enact reforms within the USDA to finally end discrimination within the agency, protect the remaining Black farmers from losing their land, and provide land grants to create a new generation of Black farmers and begin to restore the land base that has been lost by Black farmers due to outrageous discrimination over past decades. Now, that is almost like a blind admission that this land that they're giving to Black farmers, 32 million acres, it's their land anyway. You know, I'm just giving you back what we took, you know, some of what we took from you, and to see what you can do with it. So moving forward, like you said, it has to become a part of our culture. Like, how do we make farming or be able to make farming as big as Birkin bags? How do we make farming, the idea of farming, bring it to an awareness as we're aware of Jordans, or as we're aware of the latest hip hop song? Like, how do we make agriculture, farming, and everything that comes along with that sector, that business sector, just more cool and acceptable and talked about in our community?
Let me briefly touch back on the point we were just talking before this. And so imagine you've been in the house all summer. Your legs done got stiff. You haven't been running outside. No basketball goals, nothing to play on. So you're stiff. And then suddenly Parks and Recreation or somebody come along and say, we got all these basketball goals for all y'all bored kids. If you've been inside and you've been stiff, you ain't been able to move, even if I bring these courts to you, how much fun are you going to have if you haven't been moving at all? When we think about the movement of Black agriculture, you know, you've kept people in a box. And then in 2 years, I'm going to give you all of this to work with. You're almost setting people up for a disaster. To answer your question, how do you make it a part of our culture? I don't mind stepping on toes. You know, we're not in this to make people feel good. Let's look at where we spend our money. What did they say? Money talk, BS walks. A large percent of our money, I was close to $900 million, we know we spend in cosmetics, healthcare, beauty products. Obviously it's the women's makeup, which tend to spend more on cosmetics, but men buy things too. And so we have to evaluate, is our ability to own property, own land at this moment in time? I mean, I'm a melanated person, regardless of what side of the political realm I'm on, no matter what I pray to, no matter what I do in my bedroom. Is that more important than the fact that, hey, if I don't come up with a plan and work with somebody that has these same issues, there's not going to be nothing for nobody. And so there's certain consumer habits that we have to be able to personally evaluate. You can't beat nobody over the head and say, hey, this is now the new cool thing. But what I will say is there are people with bags. If I know a record label is going to spend 100 stacks on promoting a new artist, I'm going to have this budget for little chop for the next, for the next 2 quarters. I know I'm going to spend 100 stacks, 50 each quarter. I'm going to make sure I get X amount of radio spins. I'm going to make sure I do my due diligence with DJs. Do we have a faction of cats in the hood? I mean, I know people, right? Like, do we have a faction of people who's like, you know what? The same amount of energy that 300 Records or Universal is going to put into promoting what they promote, we're going to promote ours, right? It comes with, the law of compensation. If you got $20 million worth of something working against you, by nature, you have to have 20 million or 20.1 million working against it if you want to see change. Saying that to say, okay, once again, our consumer habits. Are we incentivizing, say, the ladies that, okay, you have every right to look good, but are we incentivizing as a community, but it ain't fly unless you get it from a black person that made it? You know, it's almost we're a culture that likes to shame one another. Shoes, you know, I'm a shoe person. I like shoes, you know, when you can afford them, but did a black person design these? And then we got to get out of, oh, it ain't got to be about black. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You can be a much better merchant in the global market when you have a base of your own. Chinese people understand by nature, I'm not going to spend with no other group. I don't care what color you are. I'm not going to spend with nobody else but my own. Once we have what we need, once we're established, then I'll entertain doing business with you if it's worth me doing business. But even if you don't do business with me, I'm cool because we have our base. I imagine Chinese people, and I don't like to just pull one group out, have different intra conflicts. They have differences within their culture too. But when it comes to us against the rest of the world and economy, we're talking economics. Take politics and religion out of it. They understand China. What is it? C1. China first. Everything else comes secondary. The other groups that we're not allowed to mention on certain platforms. Understand, before I go do business with any other group of people, I don't care what you look like. I'm going to make sure our foundation is straight. I'm going to make sure if those blacks over there decide they want to do something shady, we can protect it. If those whites over there want to do something shady, we can protect it. Any group of people understands naturally. And so another thing about B1AG is we got to get back to the garden. And I'm answering your question, how do we make it a part of our culture? I feel like Texas this week is going to force us, because that's not going to be the only event where large percentages of us are going to be overwhelmed by these natural occurrences, unnatural but natural occurrences that are affecting. I was looking at a video yesterday, some sisters in the house, it looked like about 8 people, and they were going through these water jars, and they had parasites just floating around in the bottom of them. You got to think, in a place like Texas is huge, and I know, you know, people make money down there. And I'm curious to know how much money is invested. Like, are there any community-based cooperatives where cats is just like, hey, let's find us some wells. Let's purchase us some land where we know that there's water. You know, we just experienced this snowstorm. We had a few years back. Let's just go in. We ain't got to brag about it. We ain't get on social media and say, hey, look at us. No, just have these things ready. The money exists. Going back to what you were saying, are we ready? Yes, we have the ability, but we have to value it. And I'm tending to believe whether we do it ourselves or not, the universe has a strange way of forcing us into where we need to be. So this is why we need to have these conversations consistently. This is how that marketing happens. To answer your question, I know I kind of danced away from it.
Man, I was digging deeper into the bill. Now, under this justice bill, up to 32 million acres would move to black ownership over a decade, nearly 7 times the 4.7 million acres that are now in black farms. A new USDA agency, the Equitable Land Access Service, would administer the program, and they will buy land from willing. Now, the USDA would buy land from willing sellers at fair market value for use in the program. So the USDA is going to buy land from willing sellers at fair market value for use in the program. Up to 20,000 grants of 160 acres would be made annually through 2030. Recipients would be new or experienced black farmers. Beginning farmers would be required to complete a training program. Now this is the thing that sticks out to me. They says they're going to buy this land that they're using for this program, and then we're going to give it to these farmers. It's almost like, yeah, man, let me go ahead and buy this bucket. Let me buy this 1983 Chevy Caprice, and let me give it. I'm gonna buy this from you, but I'm gonna give it to them and tell them it's a Bugatti. Or am I tripping? Am I looking too deep?
I didn't even read that part, but it only justified my. Once again, I know nothing. As I sit here in this place, I can see this screen, and I see my children running around. Somebody's making some money here. Nothing is free in this world, right? And you look at, okay, who has the land to sell? It makes me think of the Homestead Act. You gave people 160 acres for free. I'm going to give you this just for coming over here. If you can get some Indians off this land here, I'll give you some land. So basically here, now let me pay you to give it to somebody else after you've used it, after there's nothing else that can be done with it. That's like, we want to make this a family production. That's not even sloppy seconds. That's sloppy fourths. I mean, you got to think about the generations of all these different chemicals, different operations. So by nature, if we're wanting to take a holistic environmental approach, you got to let this land sit for a long period of time before, and which is needed anyway, right? But I doubt the black farmers that are needing some sort of assistance are wanting to just get land to be good conservationists. Black farmers want to produce. I mean, you said it. What else can you say? I'm selling you this bucket.
But then I look at, we do have products that do regenerate the soil, like your soybeans and peanuts. That cost. Is it in the bill? So in the bill, does it say, so, once we've sold this land, well, we've bought this land at market price from the people who've reached their peak, there's really nothing else you can do with it but take losses. And so I'm going to pass this, because the same thing is happening with businesses inside of the city if you've watched over the last 12 months. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're socially distanced, but I know y'all Negroes are some ambitious people. So here, you go, I hate to give this business away, but I hate to sell it to you, but here, when everybody's locked up and nobody's buying nothing, the thing is, when we go back to this consciousness, we've been so relegated to celebrating just being seen as a human being that when somebody presents us with anything, we just jump on it. I'm guilty of it. I've done it a time or two in my life, but as you get older, you become responsible. And that's not to say every time there's opportunity, there's something behind it. But with each opportunity, we're given the spirit of discernment to decide, okay, is this plant that's growing in this crop what I put in the ground, or is it not? If I'm a conscientious farmer, I know what seeds I put in here. And so if this is not yielding what I put in the ground, take this out. It's a weed. You don't want it to grow. This mindset of in the midst of crisis that somebody is sitting in their house thinking, how can I just give? The fact that, okay, we're going to buy it at fair market price lets you know, okay, this is a transaction. This isn't a reciprocation or a repairing of something. This is another money move. I'm gonna pay the people who had it before and let you sit on it while you try to figure out now what's going on here. And by that time, you would have either died out, got burnt out, would have sold it back to somebody to have this same process go on. Debt is the new gold, right? You don't want me to go in on this one. I ain't gonna say I wish you didn't read that. I'm glad you read that. But these are the discussions we need to have. These they need to be non-emotional. Yes, I do believe that with this space, even if it's bad land, there's creative things that we as a people can do. But like you said, okay, yeah, put soybean to refurbish the soil, grow hemp. Well, we know the hemp market, because of a lot of people just jumped in and oversaturated, and we don't have the infrastructure. So once you've grown the hemp on this land, going with your model, just to go through the science of it. So we grow hemp on all of these 32 million acres that was bad. We're giving y'all the throwback. We're giving y'all the sloppy seconds of land. So the years that it's going to take, okay, yeah, we'll put hemp here. So you don't want to just grow all this hemp and not have a market to sell it. And so theoretically speaking, hey, since we know hemp fiber is good, let's grow hemp fiber. Okay, do we have the processors in North America specifically to process for hemp fiber? Because a lot of the processing we have is for the oil. So once again, and this affects all farmers of all colors, we don't have the infrastructure to really process fiber to make it profitable. So if I'm a black farmer already coming from a deficit, okay, I'm going to jump in the game and just throw this hemp on here. Are you going to be able to compete with the other, 3.5 million other white farmers, when in line at this processor? At this point, it ain't even racism. It's who's closer to this processor, who's closer to the sign-up sheet. And so this is, once again, why it's important on a communal level. We can identify specific products that we know we consume. I don't have to convert you. If I know that you eat, I ain't going to say sea moss. I know you eat greens. I don't care what church you go to.
I don't care what your personal opinion is. Will you agree to put $10 into a communal pot so we can make sure that we can pay at least 10 different farmers to grow these greens we eat? We got X amount of farmers over here that grows sweet potatoes. We got X amount that grows carrots. Will you put $10 in a community supported CSA share? And I mean, it's really as simple as that. Because if we're dependent on the government, large corporations to suddenly, in the midst of me making profit, I'm a large corporation, I'm going to stop making this profit and help these people that I'm making my profit off of. It comes to a point of responsibility. You know, it's not supposed to be an easy task. Like I said, it's one of the most humbling things when you actually meet one of these farmers who's dealt with this. You know, you and I can talk about this through a screen. It's another thing. Every day you look up and look out your window and you know that there's these little invisible forces encroaching on your space. You just want to grow something. I want to grow something. I know how to sell it. You know, this is my family land. This is our legacy. I just want to do what I'm supposed to do. But you realize that you have all of these forces that's I'm pulling from you, these vampiric forces. And then you look to a community that don't even know you exist. It's like a death of 1,000 paper cuts. So once again, we have to have these conversations. If X amount is going to be put into promoting drugs and the things we promote with our music, then we have to have conscientious minded people to spend X amount to promote healthy food. Simple as that. What do you eat? Hey, here's X amount of farmers that live within 50 miles to 100 miles of where you are. And this is all throughout the Southeast. We can even pinpoint where most of these black farmers are. There's sciences we can apply, but the biggest piece of it is getting us to agree that this science is important. The science of our food security, the science of saying, hey, somebody's running game here. You know, there's not a magic shot. There's not one individual. This is systematic. And so until we develop a better system, a system that the participants agree to be a part of, we're not running out on the plugs. We're not running out on the farmer. No, farmer, I understand by me purchasing from you, I'm not just feeding myself. I'm helping you run an operation that's helping thousands of other people to shop with you. And so to the degree we're able to see this agricultural framework as a more expansive 5-dimensional dynamic versus just me eating or versus just me going to get a bag, to that degree, we're able to counter this system that seems kind of fishy.
And then going back to the story, which was published on agricultural.com, it says that the Justice for Black Farmers Act is the most ambitious legislative proposal ever developed to address historic and ongoing discrimination against Black farmers, said John Boyd, president of the National Black Farmers Association, and Scott Faber of the Environmental Working Group, 2 of the 6 dozen local and national groups that endorsed the bill. Black farmers have been systematically denied access to land, subsidies, loans, and other critical tools through government and private discrimination. And the institutional racism that has driven Black land loss is being reinforced through the USDA's broken policies. And it goes back to say that in the report, they allege that that Black farmers are being denied USDA farm loans or forced to wait longer for loan approval than were non-minority farmers. Many Black farmers contended that they were facing foreclosure and financial ruin because the USDA denied them timely loans and debt restructuring. Okay. Now this is the government producing this Black Farm Bill. And you see the admissions, they're admitting. This is basically, to me, this sounds like an admission. So again, you're admitting that you did these nefarious things. You denied and you drove it and you took our land. And now, you know what? We're going to give these 32 million acres of land back to you that we're going to buy from them and give this to you.
Mind you, you have no Black students that's been going to school to even study how to do this. I know the average farmer is 65 years old. Y'all been losing land. Y'all's culture doesn't even promote agriculture. Y'all don't have a FHA. Y'all don't have a 4-H. But here, take it. Build. you know, I think about the health crisis that we've been going over for the last few years. Once again, we were talking about yesterday how food was used as a weapon of war. And so we know why we have pre-existing conditions. Let's repair the root. If you're a farmer, you understand I'm going to burn a lot of my energy if I just keep chipping away at the tentacles of this plant that's in my field, you know, taking nutrients away from the roots of my other plants. No, I need to go to the root of it. The root is economic. Right. You know, black farmers have been locked out economically. And so to only address the tentacles of the root, you still actually, when you prune it, the roots are going to grow wider if you're dealing with natural principles, right? And so we know y'all have these pre-existing conditions. So I want to help you. I'm not going to go to the root of why you have them. and y'all I'm going to help you first. We see the first few days of the new administration, not one thing. And even what we're talking about now is just a discussion. This isn't an executive order. And so my thing comes to, if you want to help somebody, you're going to help them with the area they need help the most. But we understand that our dysfunction is profitable. Our inability to do commerce amongst each other and understand just certain natural principles is very profitable to those who profit off of it. If I was somebody that benefited off of black misery, and it don't matter what color I am, guess what? You're not going to convince me to stop. Like, bruh, my stomach is fed every day. My kids are fed because these black people are suffering and don't know how to work with each other.
But the funny thing,
we got to stop limiting it to white people. There's people darker than us that understand those black folks in America don't know the gold mine that they're sitting on. Those black folks in America don't know how much resource and access to information they have that people around the world could only dream of. So this is why people don't feel guilty when they come over here, because we're turning up. These are the images they're seeing of us turning up. We know that there's people putting in work, but are we as a community promoting these images? Because that's what the kids, at the end of the day, we talk about how do we get the next generation. They follow what they see. If I'm used to seeing these petty adults that don't know how to talk with one another, I'm used to hearing my mom say, I ain't shopping with that bitch. If I'm hearing my dad, don't mess with that. If that's what I'm used to hearing, guess what? That's what I'm going to do when I get older. And so when we talk about economics, that's the best way to teach is show our kid, hey, I want you to see me going to this market, you know, driving out to the country, talk with this black man, this black woman who grows something. It might just be the berries we eat. But once again, it's more than just shopping. It's you're creating a culture. It's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. I'm not going to call this a trick bag. You know, I work for the government, right? But keep it real. Keep it real. This is a point we can't sugarcoat no more. If you don't have a community of people that's going to be like, no, this is BS, this ain't enough, guess what? That's all you're going to get. If you just leave it to the less than 33,000 black farmers left in North America, less than 33,000. And when I say 33,000, that's including people, okay, I got an acre and I just got a farm ID. I can tell you it's a lot less than that. And so if you just leave it to that group and a handful of us that like gardening and think gardening's cool, that's not a lobby. You're not going to get hurt on at DC. With the piece of it that you read in the beginning, it's the best legislation so far. Everything is relative. If I've given you nothing, then giving you 0.001 is better than nothing. And so we have to be able to put things in perspective and have these conversations. It's not about one person being right or wrong. You want to eat, I want to eat. Who's producing your food? Somebody's giving me something I don't like. Somebody's giving me 3D printed chicken. Somebody's giving me something that's going to make me grow 3 ears and 4 eyes. Well, if you want to change that, are you supporting the people that can grow what you're supposed to be eating? We know what we eat. We know what's healthy. We know where we can grow it. We know the operations to do it. If you're going to leave these black farmers to wait on the USDA or whatever agencies to decide, I'll give you something, then that's on you. Once again, we have to see ourselves as a part of the agricultural community, not outliers looking in. When LeBron comes on TV, there's X amount of men and women around the world that put on a LeBron jersey. I want to be in the game with you, brother. I love seeing you perform. When the football players hit the field, I jump in my favorite player's jersey. Though I can't be on that field with you working, I'm gonna pay $100 just to come watch you run up and down this field. But I'm not gonna go in and put 100 on this black farmer that lives 50 miles away from me. that can deliver me a vegetable box 2 or 3 times a month. It's culture, and our kids are going to follow what they see us supporting.
No, that's why it's important that we reach our youth and teach them about agriculture. And I know, Farmer Brown, I know it's a big goal of you. You want to reach 250,000 third through fifth graders and get them more knowledgeable, aware, and also practicing in agriculture, because we do need to reach our youth. If we were to get, again, this is just a discussion. It's a bill proposal. They're talking about giving 32 million acres to Black farmers. But if they do, are we ready for that? Are we ready for that? Are we prepared to make good use of this 32 million acres? You know, do we have the infrastructure in place to even take advantage of it? Do we spend with each other enough? Do we work? There are a lot of opportunities available, but are we going to grab them? Are we going to make this agriculture thing, this growing, this gardening, this producing food a part of our a bigger part of our culture?
This is my fear. I hate to use the word fear. It has such negative connotations. We have all of this opportunity ahead of us. You know, you have this orchard full of just beautiful apples, and we don't have the baskets. As a community, we haven't agreed, like, hey, let's weave some baskets so we can go through this orchard and get all these good apples. And so what we have, you know, nothing in nature is in a vacuum. And so where you don't support, somebody else will come in support that's taking the time to build a basket to reap from your orchard. And that's my fear, that, okay, with this land opportunity, there's a lot of money now. I'm not a money-oriented person, but for people that, you know, there's a lot of money right now to educating brown kids, right? Like, so basically, because what's happening is they're putting us in a position where, hey, y'all ask for it, I'm giving you something. If y'all don't know what to do with it, y'all don't know how to, you know, take an action item and agree to move on it, hey, that's on y'all, but I've done it. Once somebody does something truthful, whether I'm doing something mean to you or nice, that's the most powerful you can be, is when I'm being truthful. They told the truth about what they knew about the discrimination, right? What is our argument? Well, damn, you just told me what you did. And so now it's left to the receiver of this truth that, okay, now what are you going to do? Once you told me that you did this once, I think about the letter about Malcolm X being released. I mean, most of us knew that anyway, but now you told me the truth. What am I going to argue about now? It's almost like a thing of what? And we sit here as a group. Some of us are like, you know, I don't care, man. You slap me, slap me, take me to jail. This is where some of us are at right now. If you don't punch back, you keep getting slapped. You know, and what did I say? Business is war. We have to learn how to support our businesses. B1AG is important to us because all of us eat. Right now, we have so many divisions in the family. It is mind-numbing. But we know we have to eat. We know the specific products that our people eat. There's networks of farmers. I mean, you can go on Facebook, Instagram. There's networks of farmers that produce. And so it boils down to, as a community, do we have the self-discipline? Because it starts in the home. Do we have the self-discipline to support somebody that produces, that's Black, within the agriculture community? It doesn't make you a hateful person. It doesn't mean that you hate the world. And if you have friends that have a problem with you being the best you can be of whatever you come from, they're not a friend. You're a pet. So saying that to say, we need to learn how to grow better together.
Grow better together. You heard it, B1AGers. 32 million acres. The new Justice Bill will give Black farmers 32 million acres. You know, is this a form of reparations? Is the 32 million acres good arable farmland? The fact that they're going to buy this land at fair market value from the landowners and then give it to us, do we trust that transfer? They're getting money. We're getting You know, they're getting money. We may be getting a bucket, a lemon at that. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we all need, as a community, we all need to take a stronger look at agriculture as a way for social economic freedom. We've done it in the past. It's since the beginning of civilization. It all starts with agriculture. Because if you can't eat, you can't do anything but die. If you don't eat, you die. It's that simple. So I hope we gave you some good, the daily bread. I hope you feel well fed. Talk to your kids, talk to your friends. Just go ahead and just start conversations on your social media. Talk about farming, talk about food, talk about land. You know, just get the conversation started. Share this video, like this video, share it, subscribe, come to the Black Boss Network. You know, support B1AG, support your local farmers, support your local food distributors, strengthen up that local food system. You know, this is we're talking and it's a conversation, but there needs to be a lot of action like yesterday. You know, I really don't think people realize how serious this is. We say civilization was built on agriculture, and we are so far behind and lagging in agriculture in this country when it comes to us and our relationship to food. We have no relationship to food. Some people are willing to go ahead and eat this 3D printed chicken without even knowing the long-term effects of it.
I would just like to end, man. A lot of our economy, the majority of our economy is based on speculation. Meaning, I buy this and I'm assume that at some point it's. I buy this and I assume at some point it's gonna have some value. There's somebody that can sit down at a table right now. For those that like to be challenged, there's somebody that can sit at a table and map out for the next 10 years. These black folks ain't gonna know how to work together, and because they can't, I'm gonna make X amount of trillions of dollars. I got an idea behind this 32 million acres. There's some math behind it that we know that they're not going to take action behind this. I'll give you something because I know you can't do nothing with it, or you're not. You haven't historically. So for those that want to fight what we'll call white supremacy, what I'll call the opaque layer, fight by learning how to work with your people. This fight don't take a weapon, it takes your dollar. What they say, business is war. Buy some food from a black person that produces it. Because there's somebody at a table that knows I'm going to make money because these people don't shop with each other. Prove them wrong.
All right, y'all. So as we end every day, we're going to keep reinforcing this, and we're going to keep drilling it until you get it in your head, until you internalize it, and then it comes out and manifests itself in this 3D realm. Hey, if you really want to know something,
shake them haters off, learn how to grow something.
You heard it. B1AG will see you again. Y'all be safe, be prosperous, stay in that growth state of mind, and we'll see you once again when the sun shines. Peace out.